Hi.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I decided to have a sleep in instead of do any makeup. So
Oh, you look great. Got that pregnancy glow.
exactly. I'm just blaming everything these days on that.
Yes, that's good. Milk it. Guys, I'm so excited. I have Hannah here from Below Deck. Wow. The last week of the social media onslaught, people are absolutely losing their minds over what we saw on the past episode. And just to
Yes.
fill people in, you have been on the show for many seasons. How many seasons have you been featured?
5 years now.
Wow. As the head stew. And on the last episode, Malia texted a photo of a prescription of Valium and also a CBD pen, along with like your little like wallet or something with HF next to it, which I thought was like kind of amazing. And she did place it almost like an Instagram post, like a little it was
I
beautifully
know.
lit, and sent it to Captain Sandy, who then she's like, I need to tell you about this. And then Captain Sandy brought it to your attention. And this is where all the questions are. So she said,
Yes.
do you have a prescription for the Valium? And you said yes. And then she said, okay, well, please go get it. This is where people are confused because the actual package of the Valium, which is not in a bottle, it's in like a little folding thing, like a Z-Pack. It
Yeah.
looks to the viewers that the prescription is part of that package. So can you just explain that?
Yeah, so in Australia, we get our prescriptions stuck to the side of the box, and that has your name, your doctor, when it was prescribed, etc. So that was on the box she had, and then we get a receipt from the pharmacist. So I assume she was asking for the receipt from the pharmacist, which I didn't have handy to pull out immediately. But I explained I could get my doctor to write a letter and let her know that the prescription on the box was the prescription. So I think it was just, obviously it was a bit of a shock. So I think I was just a little bit confused as to what exactly she was after when I felt like she had the prescription in her hand.
So then really the only, mistake was that you didn't put it in the logs coming on. And
Yes.
and then her response, Sandy's response was like, we can't have people on any kind of drugs or alcohol without us being aware of it, because then like we wouldn't, if you had to take a Valium, they wouldn't say, okay, can you be on the top deck with the people in the jacuzzi? Because what if you got tired and something happened to them? So that's why they have to
Yeah.
be, I guess, made aware that if you do bring a prescription that might be a little altering, they have to be aware of it. So, and then, so I think that's what she was trying to say, but then everybody watching it, and then even you said in maybe an interview or maybe something else read that you said, I never even had one the whole time I was on the boat. You had it there, but you didn't
No.
even, the night that we see you having your panic attack and Malia's your roommate, and you say, give me my Valium, but you actually never even took it. Is that what
No,
you're
she
saying?
couldn't find it. No.
Oh, so she had
So,
never,
no.
so you never found it that night and you didn't take it that
No.
night.
No.
So
No.
what is your thoughts of what went down? What is your opinion? How do you feel today? What do you think?
I think that I think that Sandy and Malia are holding strong in terms of their maritime laws and safety at sea, and that's that's good. I guess I just see a lot of inconsistencies with especially Captain Sandy, who that it was her decision at the end of the day. And I guess the inconsistencies would be like she found Travis drinking on charter, which is obviously a fireable offence, and she didn't fire him. She had Adam, disobeying orders, which is a fireable offence, and once again could be a safety issue at sea if you have a crew member who will not listen to your orders. You had Casey, who was seasick the whole time, and obviously you can't, really help guests if you're busy throwing up into a bag. So I think it was less a Valium thing and more of a Hannah thing. I think that she was just, Sandy and I have never really seen eye to eye. And yeah, I feel like this was a good opportunity for her.
And I thought, Greta, now we know that you're pregnant. At the time, you knew you were in love, but you weren't
Yes.
pregnant, or you did not know you were pregnant?
No. I wasn't pregnant.
You weren't pregnant. But
No.
the thing about it, I was thinking, is when you get called in to the office to be fired, which is just, anybody that's been fired, which most people in this world have, myself included, it is, it's a weird thing to be part of. It's really weird to watch on TV and
It's
see
awkward.
someone, you sitting there. But I also think, so say this happened and the show didn't exist, or you weren't being filmed for the show, and this happened. I felt like you could, even if she was like, I just think you need to leave, and you had your issues with Captain Sandy, and you wanted to still pursue the yachting world, I wouldn't think that this would prevent you from doing that. I think that you, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not like your yachting career would be over because of this. Or would it be?
It depends how long you'd been on the boat, how badly you needed the reference from Sandy. If I was working with Sandy, not on the show, then I wouldn't be working with her for very long. So it wouldn't make too much of a difference. But it's kind of sad, because what I don't want people to think as well is that you can't work in yachting if you have anxiety or if you have depression or anything like that. A lot of people in yachting are running away from their normal lives, and a lot of people who run away from their normal lives have anxiety or depression or things like that. So firstly, I don't want people to think that, because that's not the case. But no, you wouldn't end your career in yachting because you forgot to declare medication when you came on board. Half the people on that boat had medication. It's not, I think you've even seen on social media, like Courtney, who was on Lee's season, made a joke that she showed up like Lisa Renner with her pill bag. A lot of crew have come out saying they had medication when they were on board boats, and they didn't, It's definitely a rule, and I put my hands up. It was my mistake, but it's also not the first or the last time that somebody will have prescription medication on board a boat and not declare it.
And then that moment when you, when Malia's like, what's going on? And you tell her, were you not aware that she was the one were you not aware that a photo had been sent and that it had come from her? Because the way you were talking to her seemed like you weren't at all pissed or thinking that she had anything to do with it. You were literally just telling her like you would a coworker. So what was your knowledge at that point?
I think I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And as you'd seen, I'd said to Jess that I thought it was Malia that had sent the photo. But to be honest with you, Heather, at that stage, I was like, I'm out. I don't care. I just want to get off the boat and go and have a glass of wine and a Valium and chill out.
Yeah.
I just don't care. I just wanted to get off at that stage.
At that point, had you kind of said, okay, I just want to get off this boat? Or at this point, had you said, I'm done with actually being a stew on a boat ever again? Or what was going through your head? Or I'm done with ever being filmed doing this again? Or what were you thinking?
At that stage, I guess you're in shock because, there is the whole getting fired part. And then when you've been on a boat, like below deck for 5 years, there's getting fired on camera. And then there's getting fired on camera for drugs. There's different moving parts than a normal boat. I was thinking about my reputation, my family, my partner, his career. There was a lot going through my head. So at that stage, I just wanted to get to a place where I wasn't on camera anymore, and I could just have a conversation with my dad and my partner and just try and work out what was going on.
Right. So so now I have some questions, because I know we don't have a lot of time. So I have some questions from the Juicy Scoopers. Okay, Marry, Fuck, Kill, Chef Edition. Adam, Ben, or Kiko?
Marry Kiko, kill Ben, and can I just kill Adam as well?
Sure. We can always change it for you. You're pregnant.
Thank you.
So during your career as a stewardess, did you prefer working on private yachts or charter yachts?
I think I preferred private yachts longer term because you had a lot more time off and it was a lot more work-life balance. But then I preferred charter yachts if we were going to just be doing short, sharp seasons because then it was a lot more money.
Right. Oh, speaking of the money, I'm obsessed with the tip, okay? I don't know if you saw that I did a parody of Below Deck with my family. Did you see it?
Yes, I loved it. I said your sons played very nice with you. You've got good kids there.
Before that, I had done just a little video, not as good, but sometimes in the morning, I make them breakfast, especially during the quarantine, and I do try to do your accent, and I come out there and I'm like, so today we just have a really simple scramble, and, I just always say everything's simple because some chefs.
Is that my accent?
No, I don't do an Australian very well, but I just try to act like the chief stew who has to explain what's coming. And because I'm making the food, it's usually very simple. So I always just go, it's very simple. And then it's like, we're paying $50,000. I don't want it to be simple, But with the tip, I always find like must be stressful for the guest because if it's not enough and sometimes I feel bad because I'm like, nobody's pointing out that there were only 6 guests this time. Sometimes there's like 8 or 9 and sometimes there's 6. And then it's like, you guys, we only got 17,000 and everyone's like, and I'm like, yeah, but there still were only 6. Like, so what do you think of that?
I think, the tips are always like, I always learned in yachting that the tips are like a nice kind of tip on the iceberg. You shouldn't really rely on them too much. But I always find as well, it's the most difficult guests that leave the worst.
Yeah.
So you'll have like the loveliest, like the last charter actually of Below Deck that I've ever did was the 90s Las Vegas themed charter. And they were like the loveliest charter guests and they left the best tip.
Right.
It's always like the assholes that yell at you about oysters and stuff that leave the stingiest tips.
Right. So which cast member surprised you most by reaching out after the firing? Like former cast members?
I think it was just really lovely to see the support on social media from everyone, from Adrian from season 1 to Jamie, the deckhand from season 3. Then my girls Anastasia and Aisha and Julia are all amazing. And it's just I've had so much support, even from people that I've never met before, like Sierra and Paget from sailing and things like that. I think everyone just found the whole situation a little disturbing.
Yes. And when Malia's boyfriend came on and she was like, all right, man, I mean, I thought she was a little bitchy about it, which is like, man up, move out of the room or whatever. I kind of felt for you because you're like, God, it's 2 weeks. Like, how much boning? And how do you even bone in those cabins anyway? Like, how much boning is going to be happening when you guys have like 6 hours of sleep a night?
Exactly. Even on 10 hours of sleep, I'm like, just leave me alone. It's just, as well, I didn't like it how it was like, well, why can't you be professional about it? Why can't you be professional? It's like, you're having a hissy fit about sharing a cabin with your boyfriend. How is that professional?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and, to me, I was being professional because I was really thinking about what's best for the boat. You don't want the chief stew and second stew fighting.
Right.
So the best thing for the boat was for me and Bugs not to share a cabin. So it was just very, I don't know, Malia is very used to getting her way. And I also don't like people that kind of put it on others. They're like, oh, you're this and you're that. And it's like, well, no, I'm actually not being dramatic about this. I'm just having a conversation and you're the one kind of getting really angry and saying things like man up and be professional. And I'm actually staying calm, but you're kind of gaslighting me to make it seem like I'm having the hissy fit,
Yeah, and what I also, earlier in the season, we see you with the girl, what was her name, Laura?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was probably the worst person I've ever seen be on the boat. Like, I was like, how the hell did she ever get a job? She was absolutely awful. And you'd be like, could you pour some water? And she's like, what? Why do I have to pour the water? And you're like, what the fuck? It was like every little thing. I couldn't believe it. The only other person I thought that really on during the Below Deck, which this wasn't your season, was and I liked her because I interviewed her, but the pretty redhead that was a deckhand that was always pissed every time a guy.
Riley.
It was the same thing. It was like, hey, can you pull up the rope? Hey, watch your tone with me. And I was like, I just asked you to pull the it was like amazing. So when we got rid of her, which thank God, I don't know how you could deal with it. We got rid of her, and then they bring on Bugsy. I was not aware because I haven't watched every single season. I just started to get in Below Deck like in the last couple of years. Why you had an issue with Bugsy, but from the moment Bugsy came on this season, I didn't see there any conflict really between the two of you. It seemed like it was like kind of good.
Yeah. No, and I think even I felt it happening at the time, but I think even watching back, it was more prevalent to me. It was like, Sandy saying to Malia, people need to leave their emotions in the cabins, and it was kind of like gaslighting, because I was like, hang on a sec. I had a crazy stewardess, and then you brought on somebody who I haven't liked, and then you're yelling at me about laundry when I'm literally down a stew and all this stuff, and I'm keeping really calm, and like I am keeping my emotions out of it. And even with the Kiko situation, I like went straight to the bow of the boat. I was very shaken. I, was crying, but I went to the bow of the boat, wiped my tears, came back in and got back to working after the panic attack. I didn't say I had a panic attack at 4 a.m. Can I please have a few hours extra sleep? I was up working the next day like nothing had happened. So to me, it was like, you keep kind of saying that I'm bringing emotions out or I'm being emotional about this when I'm actually not, but you're making me feel like I am. It was bizarre.
And do you have guilt because you're the one who said, this is what people eat in Vegas, at least when I go to Vegas, this is what I eat, and then it turned out to be too many fried food items, and it was like your suggestion?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I definitely feel bad, but with Kiko, like I was definitely trying to help him. You could see I genuinely really cared about him. And I think it was one of those things where it was like what I had in my head, which was like funnels of like truffle fries and then little like Chinese containers with like popcorn coming out, popcorn chicken. And what I had in my head and what was served were two very different things. But I don't think it was just that meal I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back with Sandy. So, but yeah, no, I definitely felt bad. But at the same time, I was trying to help him.
Right.
So.
I mean, that does seem like the hardest job, to be the chef, but.
Yeah.
Now.
And especially as well because, people need to understand that we have preference sheets from the guests. So everything you saw on that table that night was on like 5 out of the 8 charter guest preference sheet. So to me, what I've understood in yachting as well is like, sometimes you feel like a, beautiful 9+ marbled Wagyu with truffles and this and that. And you know what? Sometimes you feel like a cheeseburger.
Right. And
people have different tastes. Like you can't just go... Just because you're on a super yacht, we're serving super yacht food. The guests didn't want, for example, any of the meals plated that charter. And Sandy asked us to plate them. And they were like, well, we've asked for a buffet style. So to me, if the charter guests want buffet style, give them buffet style.
Right.
I felt like that conversation, which led to the comment about it being child's food, was very much led. They were led down a garden path. And I don't actually think they've told me. They were like, we didn't actually have a problem with it. So it was, yeah. I definitely think it could have been, done a lot better. The presentation could have been better. And we should have done like little Caesar salads, individual nachos, big, a big thing in the middle of the table of popcorn, fried chicken and stuff. But it could have worked. But and now I'm getting sad because I love Kiko so much.
Okay, one of the episodes I saw that was pretty juicy is when you had the hot Texan #1 bachelor of Dallas or whatever come.
Oh, yeah.
And he took a real liking to you. Now, with that, you didn't really get in trouble, did you? That you guys like hooked up?
No, not really.
And did you ever keep in touch after?
Yeah, we went for dinner when I was in New York. But yeah, he was a bit, there was just kind of the one layer with him. So once you got through that, there wasn't much else going on upstairs. One dinner was enough.
That was pretty good. Somebody asked, they wanted me to ask about Pete in person.
Yes.
And because it seems like they were featuring him a lot in the beginning, and he was, calling everyone sweetie, and that was an issue. And then I feel like we really haven't seen him much at all. Maybe there wasn't much of a storyline there, but what was your feelings towards him?
To me, he was fine. I guess I've just worked in yachting for such a long time, and I've probably come to accept some stereotypes in the yachting industry that it just kind of is, I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. It just kind of is. But Pete to me was fine. I also kind of think that, if I'm working on a boat and I don't particularly like someone, I just don't really talk to them, We're busy and we're sleeping. You don't need to just engage people in conversations if you don't particularly want to talk to them. So
what about going out, how you guys rip it every third day? Does anyone not want to go and rip it all night? And isn't that hard the next day to get up?
Yes. I don't want to rip it anymore. I want to watch Selling Sunset and go to bed. And I think you really saw that this season as well. I was out in the clubs and I was just kind of I just want to go to bed. I'm tired. And the funniest thing is the pills that you actually see me taking all season were Advil, because my feet were so swollen. I'm too old for this job now.
Right.
So, it is, and it's very hard to bounce back the next day as well. There's a very difference, there's a big difference between working with a hangover when you're 22 and working with a hangover in your mid-30s. It's not nice anymore. So,
right.
Yeah. Look, to me, Pete, I never had an issue with him when I was on board.
And you were friendly with Kate from the other, from Captain Lee's boat. But what happened? Then I feel like you guys were friendly and then you weren't friendly anymore.
Yeah, it was kind of, it's a long story. Happened in New York. Really not very interesting, to be honest.
All right. So now I know you have some cool things happening. I saw that you are actually starting a kind of an online course to help people who might want to pursue this. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically the one consistency I've had throughout the 5 years of being on the show was that I'm always getting direct messages asking how to get into yachting. So myself and Anastasia from season 4, we came up with the concept of an online platform to basically teach you the street smarts, the A to Z of how to get into yachting. So we're launching that on the 1st of September, which we're so excited about. It's a lot of work, especially 7 months pregnant. You're I'll just do this little thing. It's not a little thing. It's never a little thing. But I don't know. It's just something I think that I'm super passionate about, because I've even met retail assistants or waitresses and I've started talking to them about it. And then finding out 6 months later or something that they're on a yacht in Positano with a day off and they're climbing mountains. It's just you went from going from your cafe to home, 5 days a week, and now you're traveling the world. It's such an amazing feeling to be a part of helping people get out there and have those types of adventures in their life. So that's Ocean International Training Academy. So if anyone's interested, they can go to the link in my bio on Instagram and sign up, and we'll get an email out to you and get in touch. So now, we're really excited about that.
I mean, would you tell anyone, would you be honest about an age situation? Maybe this isn't something to pursue after a certain age? Not to be ageist, but I mean, you even said your feet were getting swollen and it's hard to get it to work with a hangover. So
Exactly. No, I actually messaged a gentleman back yesterday who'd emailed me, and he was 45, but he's got an engineering degree from the Navy. So I said, go on as a junior engineer. The engineers have the best jobs on the boat. They just tinker with the engines and then chill out the rest of the day.
Yes, that would be perfect.
yeah, I wouldn't suggest like a woman. And if a woman came to me in her 50s and said, I've seen what you do, I'd love to do it, I have heaps of energy, I'd be like, just no. So yeah, it's definitely about helping people that have the potential to actually end up, on board and being happy with it.
Yeah. And is it a hard thing for someone to leave because it's money, it's fast money, and it's like these amazing breaks? Like, is there going to be anything in your course that's like, have a 5-year plan and maybe want to go towards something? Because it's not something that you can do forever unless you really become like a captain or an engineer or whatever.
Yeah. And it's so funny you say that, because I actually just put a post out on Instagram, because I copped a lot of flack from Sandy over the years about not wanting it to be my career, or like not wanting to do it for the rest of my life. And most people don't do it for life, It's a hardcore job. And, you get to the stage and it sounds really spoiled, but you can be sitting at anchor in the Amalfi Coast and you're like, I just want to be at home with a dog and some stability,
Right.
So I actually suggest, if you're going to be doing a stewardess or a deckhand and you don't want to like go into, a captain's role, as long as you go in and you're going to work hard while you're there, there's nothing wrong with going to do it for 3 years or 5 years and taking what you can out of it, as long as you don't go in going, oh, I'm only doing it for a year, so who cares? I won't try,
Right. Because then what's the point? Then so you got to have, because then you won't be hired again and you won't. Yeah, and then
exactly.
now you've wasted a year of life.
Yeah, and you work as a team, so you have to respect the fact that if you're not working hard, someone else has got to pick up your slack. So
yeah. Well, I think it's great, and I know that you have a podcast too that you're starting, which I think is a great idea about your diaries and having guests come on and read some of their diaries. I think that's really, really fun.
Know. Are you going to come on, Heather?
Sure. I do have one. I never was really good about keeping a diary, but I actually forgot because I was going to bring it and read it, but I'll go on yours. And I do have a diary from when I was 9. And
excellent.
And there's some juice in there. There's still some juicy scoop from when I was 9.
Okay, perfect. Well, no, I'm going to hold you to that one.
And did you enjoy like being recognized and being famous? Was it, because I also think it's kind of hard, and for the Vanderpump kids too, like then you kind of live this life like a celebrity and people are coming up to you and you got this glamorous side, but then you still have to go back and like fold the towels and get people drinks. And is that like a weird thing to still be that, doing that kind of work when you know that like you can just go on your Instagram and hundreds of people will tell you that you're beautiful and they love you and you're the greatest thing ever, and then someone's like, my vodka tonic wasn't right.
Yeah, I think it's kind of different. I think because I'm based in Australia. So I haven't had too much of that side. Like I always said it's like so fun going to LA and West Hollywood and you have a night out and, people buy you drinks and you have a good laugh and people are excited to meet you. But then I really do like coming home to kind of my normal life. And I think the thing with social media, the one thing that I've learned from the start is don't take on anything, because if you start taking on all the people telling you you're beautiful and amazing and you start investing in that, then when they do turn on you and they start telling you you're horrible and you're this and you're that, it carries so much weight. If you don't take on the good or the bad, then you just stay yourself. Yeah. So that's what I've done kind of over the years with social media. I don't know, you just can't take it too seriously. Everyone's going to have an opinion about, everything. And that's just part of the job.
I have one last question. I know that you loved Kiko as a friend and his food was good, but out of all the chefs that's been featured on the show with you, who do you really think was the best chef?
Probably food-wise would be Mila.
No,
I'm joking.
Those nachos. Oh my God, that was insane too.
and the microwaving of the steak, that's where I was kind of like, what is going on here? Like, Ben's very good with his plating. So I guess Ben's very good with his plating and his food style. But yeah, for me, I don't know. I can't get past Kiko. He's my favorite.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad. And you guys are keeping in touch?
Yeah, he's going to come hopefully in January and meet my little baby girl and Josh and have a few days here with his partner.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah. I'm excited to have people explore your podcast, and definitely I think people should check out. I think it's really good that you're doing this because I think so many people, especially now with the quarantine when things get back to normal, I think people are looking for a change and they are wanting to grasp what their passion might be. And so to get the information is good.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Heather. And I'm really looking forward to having you in your diary on Dear Diary, You're Effed.
I think I have more. I definitely have like weird little letters and stuff. I just wasn't like consistent, but I'll find some fun stuff from my past and I'll come on.
Okay, perfect.